This is Geometry, lesson 0-8. We are on standard B, and as I explained to the class before the video started, we're going a little bit off script. We're supposed to be doing counterexamples, but I'm going to go more in depth with measuring angles, vertical angles, doing stuff like that. All right, first, does anyone want to say hi to Martine or Brian? All right, hopefully they'll enjoy that. All right, so review vertical angles. So I'm going to do a review. Whenever I do a review, I like to make a little cloud around it. Review vertical angles. So vertical angles. There should be no talking unless I'm asking for talking. All right, so do not write this down. I'm going to do this in green. Don't write this down. This is a question for you guys as a class. Is this angle and this angle, are they both congruent? Yes or no? Shake your heads. Now, quiet raise hand for XP. Why? I see 3 hands. There's only 3 people that can explain why these are not congruent. We'll give it to Lorea.
They're not the same angle.
One is bigger than the other? And how do you know that? Yeah, so this isn't a line. It's as if there was a vertex here and there's some weird angle right here that's not 180 degrees. Perfect. So let's come over here. Lorea. That's a little bit rude, Aurelio. If you could be quieter next time you yawn in our super board my class, I would appreciate it. Okay. All right, so vertical angles. Go ahead and make yourself the X-Man, the X. So obviously we know that, and again, I'm going to do, whenever I do in green, don't write unless I tell you to write. These 2 angles, they are congruent. So if they're congruent, that means that I can set up an equation. So that was the review, and now we're getting into the new stuff. If they're congruent, then I can start setting up equations. This stuff we are going to write. Go ahead and write x plus 2, and let's write 2x plus 5. Solve for x is the question, or the instructions. Solve for x. Is it possible to find x? And the answer is yes. Anyone know how we can go about finding it? I don't care what the answer is. I want to know how to get there. Colby thinks he knows. Leo thinks he knows. Ellery thinks she knows. India thinks she knows. Yeah, Leo, go for it. I'm a little bit confused on what you're trying to say. No? Okay, you still get your XP. Thank you for trying. Leo, where are you? There you are. Colby, go for it.
You put them into an equation with each other.
What do you mean?
Do x equals 2, x plus 2, sorry.
X plus 2?
2x plus 5.
Yes. Okay, so Colby has the right idea. Because these 2 angles are congruent, because their measures are equal, I can set their measures equal to one another. The measure of this angle is x plus 2. The measure of this angle is 2x plus 5. India, do you think you could shut the door for us, please? Thank you. I can set their measures equal to each other and then solve for x. So whenever you see vertical angles like this with x's and y's or whatever, go ahead and set them equal to each other, see if you can solve. This is a review from Algebra 1. I think we did the review of Algebra 1 solving equations in 0-3, so we should be semi-familiar with how to solve this. Go ahead and solve that now. Check with your group. See if they're doing it correctly. Solve for x. All right, I gave you about a 20-second head start. I'm going to do this now. So I'm just going to color code line by line. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. I'm left with x is equal to 2x plus 3. From there, I'm going to, I probably did this in one of the worst ways I can because I have to divide by a negative now. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And I'm left with negative x, or negative 1x, is equal to 3. And then finally, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1, or divide both sides by negative 1. It's the same difference. And I'm left with x is equal to negative 3. Final answer, I box it. All right, so I see a lot of people having moving pencils, so I want to kind of pause and make sure that everyone understands these steps. Make sure that we do understand how to solve these equations with variables on both sides, multiple steps. So far, so good. I see a lot of pencils stopping. All right, this is the time to ask questions. Everything up here you should be able to do on your own. Give me a fist of 5. 5 in terms of I can solve equations with variables on the side. Like, I'm really good. I might not be fast, but I know how to do it. 1 is I am, like, back in time, I'm an 8th grader. I am not sure what to do again. Fist of 5. Awesome. Okay, I only see 4s and 5s. That's what I want. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Complementary angles. Complementary angles. I hope I spelled that right. I am a mathematician, and I hope that gives me an excuse to spell things incorrectly. But if you find spelling mistakes, that is still extra credit in your extra credit tracker for catching a teacher error, as well as your XP bonus for catching a teacher error. I want to spell things better. I have a growth mindset. I know that I can learn to spell better. Please help me to learn how to spell better. Complementary, I think that's how we spell it. Complementary. This means star because it's important. It means angles. I guess if I was being very technical, I should say the measure of the angles, but I think I'm going to be simple for this. The measure of the angles add to 90 degrees.
Is that your favorite angle, Mr. Suda?
Complementary? I wouldn't say it's my favorite angle.
What's your favorite angle?
I don't know if I have a favorite angle. I'll have to think on that. Complementary adds to 90. Let's see an example. So have we done an example before? I guess this was technically example 1 I should be more strict about my notes. Example 1, let's do example 2 here. Example 2, and I should just be circling the number. Example 2. So if I have 2 angles, so my first angle, and again, for your notes, if you want to be precise, you can grab a ruler. I have an angle like that, and I have another angle that looks like, let me try drawing this better, like that. I know this angle, I should label this because otherwise I can't talk about my math. Let's say this is point A, point B, point C, and we'll call this point D. Now I can talk about this angle. I can say that angle ADC, or rather the measure of angle ADC, is equal to 90 degrees. I'm just telling you, that's given information. The problem tells us that is a 90-degree angle. That is a right angle. And it's also going to tell us that this angle right here is 40 degrees. Usually they do a little circle there to say, hey, it refers to that angle, not this whole angle or something like that. So can you find question mark? And instead of question mark, they usually do like an X. Can you find X? What do you think? Can you find X?
No, it's way too hard.
Too hard. Yep, I agree. We should just give up. No. Quiet raise hand. What is X and how do I find it? Oh man, so many hands. I like this. Samantha, talk to us. X is 50. How did you get that? 50 degrees, right? How'd you get that? Yeah, so if this one is 50, that adds to 90. Exactly. I like how you said that. Another way of doing this, and this is something that's kind of important too, this is how to solve it every time, how to set up the equation. And you don't have to do this to solve it, but it's just a way to solve it every single time. You set up this plus this, x plus 40 degrees. And that should equal 90 degrees. From there, you can subtract 40 degrees on both sides. So I can do that in a different color here.
You don't even need to write that all out.
You do need to write this because it's not in green.
No, I mean like when you're actually doing it, can you just subtract it?
Just subtract it. What does it refer to?
Like you could just subtract 90 degrees from 40 degrees.
I still like subtract 40 from 90.
What you're doing right now, you don't need to write out the whole equation for it.
I see, yes. I could have just skipped down and said x equals 50. Is that what you're trying to say? Or am I still misinterpreting you?
I'll just shut my mouth.
I'm sorry that I could not understand what you're saying.
I just can't explain correctly. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So this is how you solve for a complementary angle. This is a simple problem. I would say on this difficulty scale of 0 to 10, 10 being super, super difficult, 0 being I just solved that using nothing. This is a level 1 problem. Let's look at a level 4 problem in example 3. I was about to write 4. Example 3. This is the type of problem that you'll be doing for the homework. So again, give yourself a right angle. You know that this is a right angle. That is given. Okay, Mr. Sindel, you need to learn how to do a right angle. I bet there's some technology way that I could do it. And I'm going to divide it some random line. There I go. I'm going to label this with new letters. I can go backwards in the alphabet, so Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P. No, okay, I'm just done. So those are my letters. Now, I'm going to tell you the following information. First of all, assume that, I'll write it here just so that we have the assumption, measure of angle Z, I should do a little tick mark on my Z so you don't confuse it for 2, Z, W, X, this entire measure Z, W, X is equal to 90 degrees, just as it was in the last problem. Just assume that. I also know this information that I'm about to give right now. This angle is X plus 2. And to make this come out nice, this angle is 16x plus 8. That actually will come out, yeah, that works. Does it work? I apologize. I apologize. If you wrote that in pen, you're going to have to scribble it out. Let's make this 7x plus 8. I just want the numbers to come out nice for our example. I did not think about that as thoroughly as I could have. I was thinking supplementary. My apologies. All right, so solve for x. Same type of problem. How do I get x? This one is a little less clear. The last one I could eyeball it and say, oh, yeah, that one should be 50. This one you can't eyeball. But you set up the equation the exact same way. You say this angle plus this angle equals 90 degrees. I'm going to set up my equation again. X plus 2. That was that first angle. I don't need parentheses. I'm doing parentheses in my notes for the sake of showing you that is one angle. Plus 7x plus 8. That was the second angle. That should be equal to 90 degrees. Now, it's just a simple equation, and I can solve. So, 7x plus x, shout it out. 7x plus x, shout it out. 8x. I'm combining like terms right here. 2 plus 8, 10 is equal to 90. I just combine like terms to get to the next line. From there, I should be switching colors for each line so we can refer back to the steps. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. I'm not going to write that step anymore. We have gone beyond Algebra 1. Hopefully we know what I'm doing. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, and I get 8x is equal to 80.
Oh my god, I did this all wrong.
It's okay. If you're making mistakes and you caught it, both neurons fired. You made the mistake, neuron fired. You caught the mistake, second neuron fired. Divide both sides by 8, and I'm left with x is equal to 10. Box your final answer. It should be 10 degrees. Box your final answer.
Let's get into the homework.
Just give it up on my
Questions about example 3? Yes, India.
I just realized if you put the 10 degrees into the 10 plus 2, it's 12, and 12 isn't really the same the size of the Z, W, Y
That is quite correct, yes.
I understand.
You do everything.
I mean, yeah, so if I wanted to be exact, what India's saying is I should have had this like right there. But I did not. And I'm going to do this all the time on tests and stuff too. It's just because I want to go fast through my examples, and I apologize. So India, I will give you your extra credit point for that one. But from now on, just assume that that is how I'm going to be doing problems because I'm lazy. I apologize for being lazy. So get out your extra credit tracker, India, add it on. Last thing in our notes, supplementary. By the way, India, I love that you caught that. That's awesome. This is the last slide. I'm going to make this slide one example instead of two. I wanted to make it two, but we're out of time. Okay, giant red star. Angles. Add. Two, what are you guessing? Shout out a guess. 90, good guess. That was the one that we just did last time, so probably different. 180, good guess. Anyone else want to guess? The answer is 180.
Bro, what?
180 degrees, yep.
You said good guess when I said 180?
That was a great guess. You got it right, yeah. I would say that's a good guess.
He's like, nope.
A guess doesn't mean it's wrong. Angles add to 180. Let's do a hard example. Level 4 example right from the get-go. I want to do a level 1 and a level 4.
Level 4 healer what?
Example, what are we on? We're example 4. All right. So on example 4, 180, by the way, is a line. If you want to add that to the notes, you can say that a straight line, this angle right there is 180 degrees. That little rainbow means I'm measuring the angle. A line has 180 degrees. If you think you'll forget that, write in the side notes. Green is optional there. All right, so this is what I'm going to say. So assume that this is a line. So our assumption here, I do want to make sure we are assuming things correctly. Assume line segment AB is a line. With that assumption and the extra information that I'm about to add, we're going to solve for x. So I'm going to make this, let's make this 8x plus 3, and we'll make the left-hand side, I want to make this come out nice, so 9x plus 7. And again, India would be correct in saying that, Mr. Sindel, shouldn't the right side be bigger? Yes. I mean, technically, this line should have been over here, and I'm realizing that after I made the problem, but I apologize. All right. So, solve for x. I did not hear it. I apologize. I could have deducted HP. Solve for x. Okay, so for this one, very similar setup. Here we go. And I apologize that we have to rush through it. It's a Thursday, 9:22.
So then right here, do you just add 180?
Nope, we gotta go.
Like
You
plus 180?
do plus there and instead equal to 180.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so here we go. 9x plus 7. That's the first angle. I'm going to add it to the second angle, and the addition of the two angles should add to 180. So I'm going to add the second angle, the measure of the second angle, 8x plus 3. That should equal 180 degrees. Let's see if that's the case. I'm going to combine like terms. 9x plus 8x is 17x. 7 plus 3, 10 is equal to 180. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. Subtract 10, 17x is equal to 170. Oh, this actually is a very similar type of problem to our last problem. And finally, divide both sides by 17. X is equal to 10 degrees. Make sure you have units. Make sure you box your final answer. We ran through that example, and I apologize. We didn't have enough time to really appreciate that problem. If I wanted to make this from a level 4 problem into a level 5 or 6 problem, I would instead ask you something along the lines of, what is the measure of angle DC. And then you have to plug x back in. But I didn't ask that. I just asked to solve for x. I could have made that harder. Khan Academy will ask for that harder question. Questions before we write our summaries? All right, write your summaries, get a partner to check your summary, then immediately begin on Khan Academy. Does anyone want to say bye to Brian and Martine?
Oh, bye.
No.
Bye, Marquise.
Bye.